So today's guest is a woman who has turned reinvention into her superpower. Robyn Cohen is a brand builder, keynote speaker, and the founder of the After Party, a movement celebrating the next chapter of women's lives after 40. She's also the CEO of Universal Media and was recently named one of the 30 women to watch in 2024. But her real power, it's not in just what she built. It's in what she's lived through and how she's alchemized those experiences into impact. From caregiving at age 10 to recovering from a scooter accident that left her pitching new ideas with her jaw wired shut, Robyn is proof that resilience isn't just a buzzword, it's a way of being. In this episode, we're discussing grief, grit, reinvention, and the magic that unfolds when women refuse to let age define their ambitions. So get ready. This isn't just an interview. It's your invitation to the after party. And trust me, it's where all the good stuff begins.
Yes.
Yay! Yay, yay, yay.
Yes.
Okay, so how did caregiving as a child shape you and shows up in your leadership today?
Okay, good question. Well, so just to give a little bit of background, so my younger sister, we're only 22 months apart. And, I think just obviously with any parent that has a special needs child, I mean, your world is transformed immediately. But being the sister and just being so young and not really understanding what that means, like the first time my parents were like, we're going to do like a date night. And if it's cool with you, you're just going to stay home and take care of your sister. I think I was like 10, honestly, when I first started.
Wow.
And I would say that as much as at the time, right, being so young, being a child, and that like your childhood is already influenced in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when all your friends are talking about siblings and whatnot, I'm not talking about my sibling in the same, right? It almost becomes like a child, really, in a way. And my sister is developmentally delayed, which means that she functions like, and it's gotten progressively worse over the years. So she probably functions right now like, gosh, maybe like a year old. You know what I mean? Like it's real.
Wow.
So it's
Okay.
kind of gone backwards, right?
Yep.
So when she was young and didn't have all of her issues, she was probably functioning more like a 5 or a 6-year-old, if you will, in terms of, like cognition, understanding people and things around her. And then because of her epilepsy,
Mm-hmm.
because of medication, because of just falling so many times because of the epilepsy, then that causes brain injury, right?
Yeah,
it just compounds.
Perpetuates.
So instead of developing forward, she's gone more and more backwards and now is in wheelchair, like long-term care, all of that. Oh. So at the time, I mean, I would have to bathe her, dress her, feed her. I mean, really like a child. So, I guess on one side I was grateful, like, as I got older, grateful that I could support my parents in that way, right?
Uh-huh.
And understood what that meant. On the other side, it probably made me a more, let's say, angry, intolerant, judgmental. I mean, it just forms maybe things in a way that you're not expecting to form in that negative way. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of bringing that to leadership, now, I would say that I'm definitely a very aware, self-aware person in general, and I've become more self-aware as I've become older. Definitely empathetic and sympathetic, but to a point. Mm-hmm. Because you got to suss out the people that you give them the finger and then before you know it, they take your whole arm. Like you need to suss that out to make sure that being a self-aware, empathetic leader doesn't lead to, someone taking advantage of you, right? So I think maybe it's helped me to be more discerning. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's helped me to have a pulse on people that maybe otherwise I wouldn't. I do have a high level of tolerance, but like there's, a percentage.
There's a switch.
Yeah. Where I'm just kind of like, okay, right. Where you've got to like put the gauntlet down and be like, what are we doing here? So I think that that's how it's transferred over the years. So again, I'm much more grateful of that now than I was, I would say, even maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's important to know, right? Like these experiences shape us, and that doesn't mean we come to a conclusion and that's the conclusion we hold on to forever. Like we keep evolving through these visuals and the perspectives that we have. And you're like, oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, and reinvention started for you young too at age 26, right?
Yeah.
When you quit drinking. What triggered that turning point?
Yeah, so I don't think it was necessarily maybe quitting drinking. I would say that probably I've talked about my reinvention a little bit, and I'm trying to figure out what that series looks like. But maybe if I bring it back even earlier. So I would say maybe my first reinvention happened when a modeling agency approached me, and I was, and I still am, very tomboyish, like, love hanging with the boys, right? Like, can really like, keep up with them. I'm a pretty tough kind of gal for those that know me. And so to think about myself as like, wait, you want me to model? Really me? Do you know what I mean? And just my look and everything was just so different. I mean, it still is, right? Like still trying to grasp, this like freckle-faced girl, you know what I mean? So that was probably my first stage of reinvention where I just never saw myself in that way. And then when I started seeing myself in that way, I was like, look at me, right?
Yeah.
At 26, I think that, and I'm trying to like look back at probably even earlier, I would say maybe like the next reinvention was when I became a makeup artist. Again, not thinking much of it, but when you're behind the scenes as a model, right? And I'm sure like when you're getting your hair and makeup done, it's this really cool, artful, or like artistic process, right? And I've always been artistic. And so when one of the makeup artists was like, you should really become a makeup artist. And I was like, really? Like, you think so? And again, then that, went into, I think I was working with like MAC Cosmetics.
Yep.
And then from there started working with like photographers, modeling agencies, and then cut to when I was living in Los Angeles. I eventually worked with Paula Abdul. I was like her assistant makeup artist.
I used to have her poster in my room as a kid. I loved her stuff.
Right? Yeah. So that was like such a great experience. That was when she was on American Idol. Did makeup for like Paris Hilton for like LA Fashion Week. Even crazy enough, Ozzy Osbourne's oldest daughter, who has always been kind of behind the scenes, but at the time I think she was like just dabbling a little bit. And yeah, a whole sort of other things. So I think that that's kind of also when I was like, wow, here's another form of reinvention for me where I can really like develop an artistic skill, but into a different type of art form, And oh my gosh, I have probably like 25 other reinvention stories since then.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know if we all start dissecting our lives and look at these different things that we said yes to and we leaned into, and we thought, why not? Check it out. We'll see how we unfold. Yeah. I'm laughing about this modeling thing because I'm older now, right? And this company asked me to do a modeling gig for them on this product that they had. I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, no, you're our demographic. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then they sent me this outfit. I'm like, this is the ugliest outfit I've ever seen in my whole life. I'm not wearing it. And they're like, no, this is what you're wearing. I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to find a new model. Like, I'm not wearing this outfit. It's not my skin color. So, like, it was just so funny. And I realized, like, it's so, when you're in that artsy space and everybody has an idea of what they want it to look like.
Yeah.
And how you can just be like, well, maybe I'm not your model today. Sorry, but thank you for the option.
Right.
And so I didn't. So there you go.
Yep.
You also lost your mom at a pretty young age, like 30, right?
Yes.
How was that?
Well, so I'm trying to think. So my mom battled 3 forms of cancer over the course of 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Started when I was, 22, 23. I was pretty young.
Okay.
And it ebbed and flowed, and like one happened, then it went away. I mean, it was just a whole journey. And so it got to the point where it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that eventually took her life. And I'm only honestly learning today that there's a whole slew of even non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Like that's all the information I was given. So it would have been interesting to have known a little bit more deeply what form it was. But I think, my mom and I always had a pretty tumultuous relationship. Unfortunately, I just was a very rebellious, child. Still am at 51 to a certain degree. And so we butted heads a lot. And then you can imagine, and again, just not having context when I was younger, her being a mom to a kid with, do you know what I mean? Like, you just don't have context in understanding, the situation. So I was very rebellious because I was like, if I have to be the second mother to my sister, then you're going to allow me to be as independent and self-sufficient as I can be, right? So that was like my rebellion.
Yep.
But, when this was probably a couple of years before, weeks before she had passed away, I had to rush from LA to Toronto. Thank goodness I made it in time. And she passed away. So we had the funeral on February 14th of 2004. So of course, Valentine's Day was forever changed.
Wow.
But what I did for her for the funeral, if you can believe it, is I did her makeup.
Oh, wow.
I did, being a makeup artist.
Yeah.
And even though we had this, tumultuous relationship, I felt like the least that I could do, like a gift that I could give her, was to do her makeup. And I remember when I went to the funeral home, and like I provided the clothing, like the wig, the jewelry and everything. My best friend came. She was so terrified. Like, she was at the other end of the room, and I just was like, all right, here goes, took a deep breath and did it. But I'm so glad I did that.
What a gift.
I just felt like it was the least that I could do. But again, Jen, it's like that experience then, like, it just makes you more hard as a person, again, more intolerant, it just kind of like adds the layers to my situation, right? And so, so it was definitely hard to manage emotionally. Like, no one was talking about mental health like 20 years ago, right? So like, I didn't know. I just was like, okay, I'm going to deal with this, like partying and doing tons of drugs, which was like a lot of fun. It got me through it. And like, honestly, like I think it could have been worse. It could have been even like more destructive. I just felt like I had to release it in some way, if that makes sense. I also never cried. So I didn't cry from the time that like she passed away. I didn't even cry at the funeral. I spoke at her funeral. Wow. I didn't cry all the way until June of that same year when Sex and the City was wrapping up and they were saying all of their goodbyes and people were crying, and I'm like watching this, and then woo, it was like a deluge finally came out. So again, like grief and whatnot that, we were going to cover. It's like, again, like grief. No one tells you about grief and how to manage that, So it was a very interesting thing where like that triggered me to finally kind of almost deal with the grief and the passing of her. So it was a really just interesting time.
God, it makes me so appreciative of everything we know now, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
My grandma just passed away this year.
Sorry.
I mean, she lived this great life,
Sure.
And her husband had left years before, and it was her time, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I got to say goodbye to her. I got to have the things. you bury her, you still have emotion, right? Like you still have the cycle, and it's like these little things that will randomly pop up. We just had our family fishing tournament over the 4th of July.
Nice.
And she's always there to like whistle or see who's catching them or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is the first year she's not here. And like, it's just fascinating how it's a constant letting go. It's not a one and done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It's just these little moments that remind us that we're human and all these things that come together.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? Like, you just were innately understanding of yourself? Were you kind to yourself during the process? Or were you like, I should feel this way or I should feel that way? Or were you just like, hey, this is my journey and it's fine?
You know, and probably my really good friends will like attest to this. I am like, the problem happens and I'm like, okay, what do we have to do? I move immediately into like, what's the solution? I don't like to dwell too much on a problem, right? Because I mean, we're all different. And I will say that there's, it's like, sure, here's a problem, whatever that looks like, whether it's personal or professional. And then there's feelings. And so I think that for me, I probably treat them very similar, you know, where it's just kind of like, here's a problem, the feelings. Okay, immediately, like, what's the solution? And maybe it's I'll deal with the feelings later, you know? And I think that also comes from having to take care of my sister from I mean, when you're dealing with someone with epilepsy, you need to jump into action. There's no time for let's ruminate over like this problem and see. Oh no.
Right.
You need to be there for the person, right? And you need to figure out what they need, how to keep them alive. Like if that's the case, do you need to call an amp? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having that kind of training really young has just, I think, followed me in my life. And it's literally how I operate. So when my mom passed away, you know, right away, I'm like, okay, well, what do we need to do? Right? Like funeral home, you know, and almost also doing that to relieve my father having to have too much of the burden as well, because I was mostly away for college and, you know, work and whatnot through these years. So my dad was on the front lines of both managing my mom's cancer and my sister. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So I just was like, nope, I got this, Dad. So it's part of my nature is to jump into action.
No, and I think that's awesome to know about yourself, right? And it's such a skill to have. I would say climbing mountains for me over the last few years, like we lost the guy in an avalanche and we lost another person, like those things happen. You don't have time to worry about why or whatever. Like right now we have to deal with the circumstances. Otherwise another one of us could go. Right? And so then afterwards you learn to compartmentalize and you're like, okay, now I'm in a safe space and I can unpack this and like sort through it. But being able to separate that emotion of like, hey, I'm not denying you. It's just that now is not your time.
Exactly. And I honestly believe that not enough people have those experiences, which again, you know, humans make up all kinds and we need all kinds, you know. But I do think there's something to be said about having those kinds of experiences to learn what it means of like, okay, like this crisis has happened, right? And it might be a crisis that can really affect you, you know, personally and feelings and all of that comes with it. But it's just kind of like, you need to turn that off for now and you need to just deal with this head on, you know, and then once you deal with it, then you can start unpacking, you know, and almost like honor yourself, give yourself that space to finally do that. But I don't think like enough of those people have those experiences. Who was it? Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he even said that that more people need to actually go through challenges and like actual suffering to learn and grow.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Well, I'm even looking at, I have sons right now in high school and one of them went through a breakup, right? And all of a sudden it like was consuming his entire day. I said, listen, okay, you are allowed to be sad, but you're only allowed to be sad for 5 minutes an hour.
Seriously.
So when that 5 minutes is done, then you have to do something that keeps you excited or going or whatever for the next 55 minutes.
Yeah.
And know that when the sad feeling comes up, you're like, I'm allowed to be sad with you in the next hour.
Yeah.
But this hour, I've already used up my minutes,
Yes.
right? Because after a day, I'm like, listen, we are not doing this for like, I don't know how long you plan to sit in this space, but it's not working.
Theory on this. Okay, so I don't have kids. I am married. I've been married for a really long time. I've been around enough men. I have a theory of this because it seems to me that like with those kinds of things, men just fall apart.
Crazy.
Boys and men.
Yes.
And I have a feeling that, again, it's a societal thing.
Yep.
It's both society and then it's just childhood upbringing, but the childhood upbringing is influenced by society. Where like men have to be tough and you can't cry, and I think there's almost like a disconnect to their emotions in handling these more emotional sides of life, and they just fall apart.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it time and again, a lot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even if you think about like the suicide rate, unfortunately, among young men is very high right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm, women as like, we have all of our groups and friends and this and that, but not enough men have that. And I feel like we're missing something there because don't get me wrong. I'll be the first to be like, yes, women matter, our health, like equality, like I'll go on about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also say that like we can't forget men. Like there's just this weird, I think, warped thinking right now that like, oh, all the world's problems, are like chalked up. No, we live in a system, that has served men better than women is how I like to put it.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yep.
But there's something to be said about the societal norm of like, no, you gotta be tough and you can't cry, which I think is doing a disservice to men.
Yeah. No, I can see that. For me with him, it was like, you're allowed to be sad, but we also still have to function as a human.
It's the balance, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So like if we don't have any wins in any category, it's going to be harder to get out of this hole.
Yes.
So we need to do these other things that give us wins as we process this.
Yes. How old's your son?
He's 17.
Okay. So this is what my dad always told me when I had a break. He was like, what boyfriend is this? I'm like, I don't know. It's, like the third one or fourth one I've had in my life. He's like, great, 50 to go. I'm like, 50? He's like, trust me, you'll find the right one. This is part of the process. I was like, okay, Dad.
Wow. All right. Jojo, you got a few more to go, buddy. Sorry. When you're in a season of rebuilding, like what are some of the practices or rituals that you do to stay grounded?
Great question. I would say I've been in a process of rebuilding right now.
Okay.
I would say that, one, exercise is like everything. And it's been like that my whole life. So I've been exercising since I was 15.
Okay.
So a really long time, right? I'm 51 right now. So it's just been a part of my life always. It's become even more important because I'm now a perimenopausal woman. I'm over 50. Your body changes and exercise does become even more important. So exercise is a big thing. I would say meditation has been really phenomenal, has been great for the last maybe 9, almost 10 years of my life.
Really? Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And at one point it went from like almost every day. And now it's kind of pared down to when I think I need it the most. I just love walking. I just love being out in nature. So winter, summer, spring, I mean, all of it, like every season. Now it's a point. Yes, I want to get my steps in. Yes, I realize that now people understand the benefits, of walking, but just kind of being outside with your thoughts, no devices, nothing, which again, we also don't do enough of, but how important that is. So that helps me to be grounded. Obviously eating well, like that's everything. And that became a thing because of course, when you deal with cancer so close to you,
Mm-hmm.
that you just become that much more hyper aware of what you're doing to yourself, what you're putting in your body, and everything, right? I mean, it's everything from like makeup, skincare, I mean, all of it, right? So it's just very important for me that like I'm taking care of my body in all ways possible. Those I think would be like the key things in terms of like staying grounded when I'm rebuilding, and then also just knowing why I'm rebuilding too, you know, like reflecting on it, like not rebuilding or like moving ahead forward. So this is where the opposite happens. So if a problem happens, I'm the first to jump in and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But in this situation, it's actually something to like pull back, right? And assess and reflect and, you know, really dive into like, okay, so like, why are we building this, or why are we doing this, to really understand the why behind it. Simon Sinek. So that's something that also is really important to me, is like this constant, like, okay, you know, what is the vision for this? You know, assess the vision maybe a month later and be like, okay, does this still work? Do I need to tweak it? So I actually do that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a big check-in practice.
Always.
Yeah. I think that helps me a lot too.
Yeah.
And I think that why is really important. And once you have that clarity on that why, it just gives you an anchor to come back
Yeah.
to. And it's like, okay, this might not be the most comfortable time. This might be whatever, but this is why. And I don't want that to continue. So I have to break it or start new or do something different.
Yeah.
So yeah. Do you have any mantra or any like things that you do on repeat?
Not really. Not really. I
Okay.
have a really specific kind of regimen,
Yeah.
you know, like my 7-day week regimen, where it's usually like I try to get in 3 days of like strength training, sometimes 4, 2 days of yoga, like a couple days of walking. So that's like just been my thing, where I try to mix it up, you know, a little bit. I mean, like in terms of like a mantra, honestly, not really. It's just being mindful of where I am at.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, nothing too specific. And also just finding really good meditations that will guide you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it just kind of helps with your mindset. And, you know, if anything too, I think the other thing that keeps me grounded that just popped into my mind is like I watch a lot of podcasts.
Do you really?
Yeah, I'm obsessed.
Okay. What are you obsessed about it? Just the storytelling between two people?
Yeah, like Diary of a CEO,
Oh,
Stephen
yes.
Bartlett
So
is
does
just
good.
brilliant. I actually have been enjoying Emma Greed's new podcast called Aspire.
Okay.
So she's behind Skims. She's a founding partner of Skims. I think co-founder of Good American. She's just like blown up like recently, you know, into the forefront, and her podcast is fantastic. Love Andrew Huberman. I know, like, he's, you know, I'm trying to think Oprah, because I'm like,
who doesn't?
Yeah. I'm like, come on,
forever.
Yeah,
Please
Mel
more.
Robbins.
Yeah,
fabulous. And so I love, because I love learning, because I'm always like I know what I know, but I also still don't know a lot, right? So I like to keep like an open mind. Yeah, I'm just like a sponge. I just love absorbing it all. So listening to all those different podcasts, whether it's health or leadership or, you know, entrepreneur, whatever the topic is, I think that also does keep me grounded too.
Yeah, I do too, because it just reminds us that we're always beginners.
Yes.
And if you always have that beginner's mindset,
Yes.
then it just gives you that space to not have it figured out.
Yes.
And
That's
like
exactly
lean into
right.
the unknown. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, a big thing is like, I have to repeat to myself constantly, being kind to myself makes me stronger.
Yes.
Right? Because I will get so hard on myself. I'm like, well, what's that helping?
Me
That's
too.
not helping at all.
Yeah.
So anytime when I start catching myself, I'm like, Jennifer, be kind to yourself. It's only going to make you stronger.
Yes.
So yeah. What inspired the after party?
Okay. So, so a couple of things. One is I've always done something in the space of women, right? Always. So this is now 17 years. So since 2008, I've been involved in some type of initiative, whether I got involved with something or I started something myself.
Yeah.
And that's like in LA, San Francisco, Sao Paulo, Brazil, now here, like everywhere I've ever lived in the last 17 years, been very involved with anything that has to do with women. So that's like one part of it. Another part of it is, so I'm the original founder of Utah's 40 Women Over 40. I recently stepped away this year. It just, wasn't aligned with me anymore. But being a woman over 40 and understanding how important being a woman over 40 is in so many ways. I mean, professionally, health-wise, like the list goes on and on. How our bodies are transitioning during this time, right? There's so much that we are still trying to figure out, I think, as a whole, right? On a collective level. And so I wanted to take that same theme of like, how can I serve, if you will, women over 40? What can I provide for them that will be hopefully like supportive, educational, But I also wanted it to be fun.
Yeah.
Because there's also just this general theme of like, well, it's midlife and you're going to be washed up and right. Like this kind of attitude where like you just hit a certain point in your life and like everything is over. And I'm like, actually, it's just starting, because if you're paying attention to the statistics, so I'm just going to throw out some, what is it? 83 million Americans are women over 40.
Oh, wow.
In case for those that didn't know. So 25% of the American population is a woman over 40.
Wow.
Like if that's not mind-blowing, I don't know what is. So that's, I think, a massive stat, right? But then you have some other stats that, for example, menopause causes something like over $1 billion productivity loss annually in the US. 1 billion. So that's glaring, right? So then I'm kind of like, well, what are we doing about it, right? And there's so many other things. So the after party is a newsletter. That's like how I'm starting it out. I did have an existing Slack channel that I'd like to now transition into that. So hopefully we can build some community around it. The name The After Party comes from the fact that I had spent a good portion of my younger years in the club. Yep. Which I'm like super proud of. I started going to clubs when I was 15. That was my escape. Yep. So dancing and just all of that, house music, that whole community is a big part of my life. It's helped me through so much because for those that know, whether it's like you go to that type of club or it's maybe a music festival or whatever it is, it happens to be the one place that like people honestly don't care who you are, like where you come from. And I won't say that for all clubs. I know that there's like the bougie, I'm not talking about those clubs. I'm talking the more down to earth, come as you are. The music's fantastic. The people are awesome. And you can just let loose and be your honest, authentic self. And no one cares who you are, where you come from, how much money you make. Nobody cares. It's very refreshing. And so that was a big, big, big part of my life. So I grew up in it. I worked in the club industry between Montreal, New York, and Toronto. And so the after party was always the thing where how it started out way before we had, like any of this like modern technology. You'd be in a club and you'd get like a card, you know what I mean? Like a little card that had like an address on it. Right. And it would slowly but surely like this, group of people would like go to this like, out of the way, like warehouse space. Right. You're like climbing up these stairs. You hear the music and it's just this raw warehouse space. This is like back in the day. Right. Okay. Where it's like DJ, big speakers, and that's it, maybe some makeshift bar in the back, and it's where the people that actually worked in the clubs would go to let loose, right? Bartenders, waitresses, all of that. But then also I think in the greater, club world around the world, it's just this thing, right? Where it's like the after party, it usually takes you to like when the sun comes up, and so it was a big part of my life. So I'm kind of bringing together that after party world with the fact that it's like life after 40.
Yeah.
And let's make it something that's more fun, celebratory, educational, of course, like, informational as well. But that I want something where women feel like empowered, like more confident, like, hey, sure, you might be having hot flashes, right? But like, we've got something for you, right? To like manage that. So like you can continue to still be like your badass self. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of energy.
Right.
And I really want to bring that energy to women over 40 rather than them feeling,
Isolated.
alone. Yes. Right. Lost. That they are in this major transition, whatever that looks like. Either you might be coming back to work after being a mom, right? That you might be going through a major career transition anyways, right? That you, because of even like your body is going through, that's a major transition in and of itself. It's almost like you're losing a part of yourself, if you will, but to actually gain a stronger, better sense of self, if we will. So that's kind of the energy and the message that I want to bring.
I love it.
Thanks.
I love it. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like evolving everywhere. I even think when I was younger and I had my period, I was so ashamed of it.
I
and
know.
Just felt like dirty and whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. And my daughters are at the age where they're like, they talk about it openly. This is what's going on. This is how I feel, which is so fun to see that. Cause I'm like, man, that was not my story, but I'm glad it's yours.
Yes.
And as I see my girlfriends and all of us in these ages, like what I thought I would feel like at 45 and what I feel like at 45 are light years different.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm like, why I thought I'd be like this old grumpy hag, I have no idea.
Right.
But I feel like I just am getting started.
Yes.
Right. I mean, and it's such a fun space to be in because now I have money to support this just getting started program.
Exactly. And if you think about it, even like those women that we all grew up with that are also at this age, think of Jennifer Lopez.
Right.
J-Lo, sorry. And how amazing.
Yes.
Demi Moore.
Yes.
Right? Like it's a long, Oprah's in her 70s. Right now. There's a laundry list. And I think like we grew up with the Golden Girls, and let me tell you, I still love that show to this day, right? So there's no shame, with the Golden Girls, but it is true that was the perception, of an older woman, right? So they had the sass, the attitude, right, that we all love, which is why this show was so successful. But maybe from a more aesthetic type of, approach, and you look at like who those ages are now and who represents those ages, oh my gosh, talk about light years away, like massive difference.
Yeah, exactly. Like 180.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. So for women that are in their 40s or 50s or beyond, like what's one myth you want to bust?
Oh, wow. One myth. Well, the myth is, we have seen a lot of this 40 under 40 accolades, right? Utah Business does it, but many others do, right? Forbes, Fortune magazine, many publications do this 40 under 40 recognition. And I think it maybe got to a point where that's all you saw. And Forbes did start a 50 over 50. I think it was in 2021. And I was like, hallelujah. And so maybe the myth that I would like to say is success truly, honestly, comes over 40. All the stats show, like all the stats prove it, right? What is it that the average age of a female founder is maybe like 42. Average age of a female CEO is 45. Average age of a CEO in general is mid-50s. Same with founders. Founders might be late 40s, actually, like general.
I think 48 or something.
Yeah,
I think
something like
here.
that.
Yeah.
If you think about other things, like when people started their businesses, right? So what was it? I forget the founder of McDonald's, but what was it? 56, 59 when he started? Like if you think of Walmart, you think of Julia Childs, you think of Martha Stewart when she started her empire, over 50. If you think of someone like Warren Buffett, made 95%. Think about this, folks. 95% of Warren Buffett's fortune was made over 50.
Yeah, I think even over 60.
Yeah. So I'm like, we have time.
We have time. And so we should be having fun during that time.
Exactly.
Yeah. How do you think things, I mean, just because we're on this topic, I feel like women are in their power more than they have been. How do you think that's affecting traditional marriage?
Oh, good question. I mean, I think it's probably affecting relationships in general.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You know, and again, so thank you to Gloria Steinem and all of those incredible women, even the suffrage movement. And this is now like late 1800s, right? We've always had very strong, bold, brave women that have paved the way, right? Whatever that looks like. And I mentioned Gloria Steinem because that whole representation of working women and all of that, and the feminist movement is her and all of her, colleagues and fellow women at that time. And men haven't really had that equivalent, but the irony is that they've always had great role models, right, to look at where we haven't, right? So I think that we've just like trailblazed, right? Like the last, let's say 30, 40 years. And so if you think about where we are right now, the question is, not the question, but the statement is that, women don't necessarily need men in the same way that we used to. Nothing's wrong with that, right?
Right.
It's like how you are coming together as two people is, I think, very different today than it was 30, 40 years ago. Nothing's wrong with that. And so I think that maybe how it's changing, let's say the marriage structure, if you will, for like lack of a better word, is really, I think it just has to make both people more mindful of how they're coming together, how they're connecting as people. I think that the right men out there, would be smart to accept, a bold, strong, independent, like wealthy woman and be able to support that. And there's many out there. I mean, hi, Oprah. I mean, she's been in that position for how long, right? And sure, she doesn't have kids and whatnot, and that's a different maybe aspect. I brought up, Emma Grede earlier. I mean, she has 4 kids. She's running 2 major business, actually 3. I don't know if anyone knows Safely, those cleaning products. So she's running 3 businesses.
Yeah,
right.
Crazy.
I'm trying to think of like some other really good examples of like who maybe more of like that breadwinner, if you will, example, but there's many out there. And so I think that men ultimately have to show up a little bit different for that kind of relationship. But again, I think that, there will always be people out there that will prefer more traditional, if you will, marriage and relationship. And some want something a little bit more modern, and different. And I just think for all of it, it matters how you show up. It matters how you show up as a woman, as a man, just as like an individual. How you support each other, I think, is different, and just like anything, I mean, in a traditional marriage, right? If the man is out there, the breadwinner, right? Like supporting the family and whatnot, the woman is supporting that relationship in a certain way. Well, then you switch it over. It's the same thing. So men will have to support that woman and his family in a different way if your wife is like the bread. It's the same thing. It's just a reversal of like what that looks like. And there's nothing wrong with it, but you have to ultimately be okay with it.
Yeah. I think you just have to be more conscious as you're coupling, because more of the roles are equal or divided differently than what we've been raised to see.
Yep.
And allowing that to look different.
Yeah,
than what
exactly.
people thought.
Yeah.
So as somebody that's been all over the world, has built a lot of companies, has a lot of passions, like how do you keep deep friendships alive while you're building these things?
Good question. Well, people matter greatly to me. Yeah, relationships matter greatly to me. I would say that my girlfriends matter greatly. So my girlfriends were the substitute for the sisters I've never had, right? So those relationships matter to me deeply. And, I think that I'm usually the one that keeps in touch with everybody. Because, for example, like a couple of my girlfriends are mothers. So, they're working full-time working. I mean, you have to understand that, right? So it's like if I were to get sensitive about the fact that I'm
you're
like
the one who's calling, right?
I'm like, no, like that's ridiculous, right? So again, being mindful, right, of like what that looks like. But yeah, I tend to be the ones like always checking in. In terms of my really, really, really close girlfriends, and I have a girlfriend in Marseille, I have a girlfriend in Amsterdam, I have one in Toronto. I mean, I have, friends all over the world. So we check in, it's like that monthly FaceTime call or WhatsApp or whatever. And it's like a really good check-in. I've got like my girlfriend base here as well. Also because we've lived and worked in so many different places. It's the same thing. Like most of the time you'll ask people that I've known for a really long time, like we usually just pick up where we left off, even if we haven't seen each other in years and years and years, because of how the relationship was first formed, So it matters greatly to me. So I'm usually the one that's investing in it because I don't know, I think you could take everything away from a person, and if you're left with just like some really good people that make up, your community, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. No, I like that. And I think it's like not being resentful that you're the person that initiates things, but that's kind of your personality.
Yeah.
You are a person that gets people wild up and together and builds community. Like you are like the connector for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's a fun role to be when you look at it like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How do you approach authentic relationships in a world that feels really transactional a lot?
Well, I mean, for one, I show up authentically all the time. And that's been something that's been interesting to navigate here in Utah.
Says everyone.
Right? I would say 9 times out of 10, I've always showed up authentically, right? I'm like, I am a non-Mormon, married, non-white, like childless, like older, right? Like I would be like a black sheep of Utah. I mean, I am, right? And so that's never really, like every now and again, it has been something that has felt uncomfortable.
Okay.
But I think that at the end of the day, I will always lean towards just trying to be my authentic self, where I'm just kind of like, yes, like I drink and I swear and like, and I carry on like, and that's just me. And I feel like for those people that understand that they appreciate that. And for those that don't, like, that's cool, right?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you're not my people. And then I then encourage people to be like that with me, right? Like, don't put on any airs. Like, don't, like, I'm showing up authentically. You show up authentically. Like, I always feel like when you're with me, I'm a safe place and I'm a safe space, especially here, because I think that is a factor, right? Where depending upon what people are navigating here, they feel like either within their own community or family or whatever that looks like, that they can't be as authentic as they would like to be. And again, this is just my personal experience here. So I'm like, no. It's cool. Like what happens with Robyn, like stays with Robyn.
Yeah.
I think it's really important here more than almost anywhere else I've ever lived. Like in Brazil, wow, Brazilians are probably the most authentic people that you could meet, like, so I never had a problem there, right? Because everybody's showing up authentically. It was actually quite refreshing.
Yeah.
But I know that in New York City, same thing, right? So depending upon also like where you live, like Los Angeles, like there's just certain places that like people are always showing up authentically. So you're like, well, then I am too, right? But here is a little bit different. And so I feel like I've prided myself on being like that, and to make people like, no, you can too. And that's just been like an important aspect of living here for me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think like after you've been well-traveled, like that's
Yes.
just one of those things where you're like, this is who I am. I pick up different things from different
Take
cultures.
it or leave it.
Because,
Yeah.
Exactly. And please leave it because I
Yeah.
want to stay who I am,
Yeah.
and I'm fine if you're not here.
Yeah,
So no
exactly.
big deal.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
No, I just think it's an interesting thing to navigate sometimes, and just always feel like this is who I am. This is what I'm about, and we're good for it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah. What am your like one of your favorite things that you say that I have found in researching you was you say competition isn't the enemy, scarcity is. Let's break that down for the audience, because I think that's such a good one.
Okay. Yeah. This is a big one for me. So I was recently on, I don't know if you're familiar with Mary Crafts.
Oh yeah. I love Mary Crafts. Everybody loves Mary
Yeah.
Crafts. Yes.
And that's what we were talking about, because unfortunately among women, competition tends to be a little bit more fierce, a little bit more, of a negative. And so, I have always believed that the pie is actually like overflowing. Like that's just what I believe. And I know that it's more of a societal thing, right? The way that women are portrayed, like, I'm sorry, but think of like the Real Housewives and right. So there's a lot of programming or even movies or whatnot out there that paint this picture of women being pitted against women, right? And that the competition is fierce and the pie isn't big enough, and so on and so forth. And then that tends to translate over to like corporate America, like the working world and whatnot, maybe even amongst, like friendships. But it really shouldn't be that way, right? Because it just comes from a scarcity mindset, right? And so the scarcity mindset says like, no, like the pie isn't enough, right? There's only this much, right? So only this many people can have it. And you're going to like clobber your way, like step on people's head, pull hair, to get there. And I actually think that it's frustrated me a lot. Because when you have spent so much time in the women's, whatever you want to call it, advocacy space, publicly and externally, what you see is rah, and like, we're in this together and sisterhood and all that. Sadly, behind closed doors, it tends to not be the case. And I've experienced it many times, too many times. And I think it is beyond sad that we continue to have this scarcity mindset among women. I mean, you look on like social media, like take Instagram, right? Like, I don't know, let's say it's like Kim Kardashian's like walking, some runway show, where are the negative comments coming from? Not really from men, are they? Why? Like, why do we have this almost default, right? To just like go for the jugular, and like attack that woman and like, I don't quite understand it, right? I feel like there's a way to maybe, it's like if you want to constructively like criticize, maybe like, be like, maybe that wasn't like the best color for her, or like, gosh, like I wish they had done her hair. But like this cruel, reaction and like response to things, I don't get it, especially when we cry on the other hand of like, oh, there's, not enough women in C-level positions and not enough women, board of directors and gender, right? So I'm just kind of like, okay, so which is it, right? Like, if you're going to fight for all these things, right, that ultimately we all want for like all women, then that's got to somehow like translate into like all aspects of society. And so I think it's fine if you want to maybe, I don't know, be a little constructive in your observations or what, that's fine. But I don't know, there just tends to be a real cruel, behavior among women. It's been like this for like a really long time. Like I said, I have dealt with it firsthand, and I'd like all of us to like work on it a little bit more. Like Simon Sinek talks about curiosity over judgment. I think that's something we should practice.
Yeah. I always look at it like if I catch myself judging somebody, I'm like, what am I noticing that I'm missing in me? Because I can only see it in them if I need it or something. So it's like, what are they teaching me, or what is that? And for me, it's like, if that person can do it, I must be a little arrogant. I'm like, that means I can do it. So like, let's go.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So it's just a different way. But yeah, that's why I love that whole thing. Like, competition is awesome.
Great.
Right? It raises the water for all of us, elevates everybody, blah, 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 blah. And there is plenty.
Yes.
Like we can just,
I'm like Pepsi and Coca-Cola, Burger King and McDonald's, Uber, and like there's a launch, list them up, right? They both exist. They're both doing, right? So like, how can we be like that among each other?
Perfect. I like it. Okay. So we have 2 more questions.
Okay.
So this one, when women look at your story, what do you hope they see reflected in themselves?
That's a good one. Maybe I hope that they see confidence and authenticity and advocating for themselves, the power of vulnerability. Had to Brené Brown. I'm trying to think. Femininity, strength, probably like those key things.
Yeah. I look at you and we don't know each other that well, but I've been following you for a while, and I just look at somebody who lives life open. Like, you're accepting, you're curious, you're willing to ask questions, and you're willing to say, that doesn't feel right, let's change it.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of just acknowledging, you put action behind things, and I just really appreciate that about you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so if this episode became a love letter to your younger self or someone else, what would you want them to hear?
Oh, gosh. That's such a great question. I think that it's funny. I think that younger Robyn, and it's funny because there's still some of those same elements. So let's just take survival mode, right? I just always felt like I was in survival mode. Whether it was like, my family struggling financially, or my family struggling with my sister's health, taking care of me, like amongst all of it and what that looked like. And so I probably never really felt that I was going to be capable of much, because it was a lot of the messaging that I got when I was younger. And, now sitting here, still figuring out a lot of stuff, still probably looking at a vision of my life that I want to achieve, which has become a lot more clear in the last couple of years than it's ever been in my entire life, because I've been very nomadic in how I live. I've moved around so much, right? I mean, for goodness sakes, like I'm back in my Airstream right now, like living full time, right? Like I'm just this gypsy nomadic person, which has been great. The experiences, like you can't even like put a price tag on, like it's priceless, right? So still figuring out some things, but looking in terms of what I have been able to accomplish under probably like incredible constraints and challenges. Like the love letter is like you have so much potential, that you have so much really interesting like skills, ways at looking at certain things that like any business, right, could use. So yeah, just knowing that like that little girl was happy to wake up every day, and that was like it. Do you know what I mean? It was like, okay, what are we gonna do like today, right? For example, or even like the weekend, like where can I escape to? Because that was always like the theme, right? Where it's like, no, you know what? You're capable of so much more, and you're going to be able to actually influence a whole lot of people that maybe you never thought possible. And just like, keep striving forward.
I like that. You got it, girl.
Thanks.
Right? You got it. All right, friends. Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast. And if you extra like this episode, share it with your friends. Robyn gave us so many golden nuggets. So thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.